है नामे मदीना.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Let Me Tell You Sundays. I'm your host, Barbara Ali, with my co-host, Juliana Morrow. And we are very looking forward to today's show, Julian.
Can't wait. I'm having to share a mic with Barbara. So
That's it.
I'm right next
We're going to be moving around the mic
We've got a packed
between ourselves. And it's a packed studio. We've got the group named...
Rise of the Vegans. We have Richu and Adam at the back, who's not saying much, and Stephen, who is sharing a mic with Richu. And welcome guys. Thank you very much for coming down. Barbara, do you know what veganism is?
Yes, I do. The very little that I know, it's basically giving up meat totally. And I also believe that you guys don't eat eggs as well.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So the thing is that we don't eat any dairy products, and no eggs, no meat, obviously, no fish. And we also don't consume anything else from animals. So, for example, honey.
Not even honey?
Nope.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And also it kind of goes like a lot further than just diet. So it will be in terms of consuming, consumerism as well, like leather and wool and things of that nature. Yeah, fur, big
So
one.
different levels of veganism then. There's moderate and there's extreme levels.
Well, I'd say that if you were just doing vegan for the diet, you'd be plant-based, because that's just it's just your food, really. It's not the whole thing of
Right. So, why did you guys become vegan? Have you been brought up in the culture of it, or is it a decision you made?
So, I was actually brought up vegetarian, so no meat, no fish, no eggs, and then I switched to a vegan diet about 3 years ago for the health benefits initially, before I learned about what actually goes on in these factory farms, where milk actually comes from, where eggs come from, battery hens, that kind of thing, and thought, I can't have anything to do with that either. So even if it wasn't healthy, it'd still be the diet of choice. But there's numerous health benefits as well. So yeah.
Okay, so health benefits, it's a moral standpoint as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to say to everyone listening, if you want to get involved on this debate, if you're strongly against it or you're in favour of it and you want to tell these guys that they're doing a good job, you can get in touch on 01189 660 382 if you guys are happy to field questions from people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, if you lived, there's another hypothetical question that you probably get all the time. Is there a scenario that you could live in where you would eat products from animals if it was done in a moral way? Is that ever possible? For example, taking milk from a cow that you own, that you feed, that has a happy life. Is there anything wrong with drinking that milk?
I mean, these hypothetical situations come up all the time. So, like, if you were alone on a desert island with a pig, would you eat the pig or starve to death? And that's an interesting one to ask on an Islamic show as well.
Barbara,
so, if you get asked that as Muslims ever,
Yeah.
I mean, it is
If
regarded as halal
if it came to it.
Yeah.
I mean...
Funny enough,
for survival. Right.
No, I mean, from an Islamic perspective, Islam teaches us to preserve life, and if you're in a situation of such, yes, you would have to do that. It's not said in Islam that, no, don't do that. Just die. There's no such. It's all about preserving life.
And for vegans in a survival kind of hypothetical situation, then they would probably do whatever it took to survive. But if that's a hypothetical situation, but the real situation is if we were not alone, living on a planet with 7 billion people, had access to unlimited fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, and other healthy foods, and new animals suffer and die horrible deaths just so you could eat them when you don't need to eat them to survive or be healthy, would you continue to eat them? The difference between the questions is that your scenario will never likely happen, and mine's the choice that people face right now.
So we're in a privileged position.
Absolutely.
Basically. So
where we have that choice.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I guess it is. But morals are very subjective culture to culture. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of hard to define morals. It's almost what you like or what you don't like. Some people find marrying cousins abhorrent, and some people do it as normal. Some people find homosexuality abhorrent. Some people say there's nothing wrong with that. So where are these morals coming from?
I think that they lie in a sense that, you know, I don't want to cause suffering to any beings purposefully, and I think me being vegan, in terms of my, you know, moral standing, is that I don't want to cause suffering to animals. I don't want to for them to die for us. I don't want them to experience pain. I've always had pets at home, and I think the way I look at it is I'd see a cow, for example, exactly how I'd see my family pet at home, and that's the thing, really. Is that I wouldn't want to see him suffer the way that they suffer, and they're the same to me. Like dogs, cows, pigs, sheep. To me, they're all animals, and they're the same, and I don't think that they should experience that pain and suffering.
What about a very small animal?
Well, veganism is a way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as possible and practical, all forms of exploitation and cruelty to all animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose. And there's quite a few hadiths about it as well, saying one who kills unnecessarily even a sparrow will be questioned by Allah on the day of judgment. So it's even a small bird.
Baba.
That is so, yes, that is so. But, you know, Islamically, we've been given guidelines as well. You know, there's things that we eat, things that we don't eat. And we're obviously not allowed to eat wild animals, anything with sharp teeth, you know, anything that eats meat itself. You know, that's why we eat certain meats that are vegetarians. So, you know what I mean? Coincidentally, you know, the cows only eat grass. So we have been given guidelines of what to do. But yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why can't you eat an animal that eats?
Because it's chemistry, isn't it? It's biology. You know, if you eat certain things, you know, you say you are what you eat. So, you know, if you eat a wild, rabid animal, you know, there's, you know, it's good chance that something could happen to you.
But it's very interesting that, because you say that you only eat animals that eat plants, but then why as humans are we sort of, you know, we're told to eat animals and we're told that it's normal. Why can't we thrive and survive like those vegetarian herbivores?
This is a thing as well that we have to look at. You know, Islam is a religion of moderation. You know, that's what religion is. You know, how it's perceived out there is totally different, but it's a religion of moderation. So even eating meat, you know, it's recommended to be moderate. You know, even the Prophet, peace be unto him, he ate meat very moderately. Very rarely. You know, but then you got individuals that, you know, they can't live without meat. You know, they have to eat meat every day, and it catches up with you. You know, you know, and I've recently learned that I was looking at the biological clock, and they were saying about bone density, and they say that your bones fully mature by the age of 25 and 30, but then they say your bones start degenerating from the age of 40. So how much time do you really have? You don't really have much.
Start to break down pretty fast, yeah.
Break down very fast. So, you know, that's why we have to do things in moderation. If you do too much of something, it comes very quick, you know. For another example, if you see someone who's probably been smoking for 20 years, you know, he didn't start looking that way, but it caught up with him eventually. Do you know what I mean? The looks start going, the teeth, the hair, whatever, you know what I mean? And it's all caused from being extreme.
What about smoking? Is that okay? Is a different issue? I guess no animals are harmed, but it's an industry that harms people.
It's an industry that actually harms animals as well. Right?
Does it?
It is.
Okay. Animal testing.
I never
and things
knew
like
that.
all these beagles that they have, and you know the dog kind of factory animal testing labs they've got, where they're making these beagles smoke many cigarettes a day, and like in like horrible conditions. So from a vegan point of view, I mean, it's not something that's usually brought up, is it? Smoking, but technically, I guess it wouldn't be vegan though. From products that like some makeups and cosmetics and things like that have been tested on animals aren't regarded as vegan.
Wow.
So it's a philosophy that goes right through
Yeah.
everything.
So I don't know if there's much more, but what else would, outside of food, are the things that you should avoid? Obviously, not wear leather or animal skin, smoking, possibly makeup. Is there anything else that people wouldn't typically
Even
think of?
like household products, so like soaps and detergents and things like that, if they're tested, all these big companies like Unilever and P&G testing, using animals for testing, and even kind of going down the route of animal testing for like cancer research, British Heart Foundation, that sort of thing. Generally, we don't support those organisations because they use dogs and beagles, and that's legally allowed in this country. I think it's something a bit of a clause in a sense that dogs are only allowed to be used if they find that like no other animal is deemed fit for purpose for that test,
That's
for
the
that
law, is
testing.
it?
Yeah.
Okay. What about dogs working, like police dogs or hunting? Although it's not really allowed as much. How do you feel about that?
You got any comments for that? Any comments?
Is it Adam's
That's
coming in?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Working dogs.
I think the question about working, and even the question when it comes to your own personal health, right? So obviously animals are used constantly in universities and scientific experiments for the benefit of all humans. So I think that the hardest thing is to work out whether or not they have to be used. I think that's the fundamental clause, is like, do they have to be used? And if they are, and if they have to be used, make sure they're given the best life to be used for. So, and a police dog, for example, is looked after extremely well. Some could debate they're put in cages quite a lot, but the majority of the time they're looked after quite well. I think dogs for hunting is completely, shouldn't be allowed. I think hunting generally is really bad. We've seen that with Cecil the lion last year, how big that was across the whole community. So I think it's
We did a whole show on that.
yeah. I think it's a very tricky one. When something's being used for the benefit of humankind, you then really have to question, from a vegan point of view, whether or not that is acceptable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a fair line, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I think it might be nice to sort of use you said you've got a definition for what a vegan is.
Yeah, so it's a way of living which seeks to exclude as far as possible and practical all forms of exploitation. And I mean, when you're harvesting crops, potentially some field mouse will be caught and killed, even just for producing grain. But it's as far as possible and practical, is to the extent that vegans go. So
do your best, basically.
yeah.
Do you find that people get very pedantic and they're like, oh, but I bet you trod on an ant or something?
They do.
People do, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that it's like that when you've got any cause. If you care about a certain issue, people will always say, "Oh, but there's this and there's that."
Yeah.
It doesn't make it any less of
Yeah.
a valid point.
Similarly with Islam and with veganism, you probably get the but bacon, what about bacon?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. What about
I
it?
think it's like anything. I think it's just with veganism, it's important to do it in the way you want to do it. There is no right or wrong way to do it, and you shouldn't be judged if for example, if you slip up and have cheese one day and you're a vegan, you shouldn't be judged that you have cheese. Like that's just like, it's cool. You're a human being. You're allowed to make mistakes.
Yeah.
There's many a times when I've been abroad and I've been in places where I've ordered what I thought was a vegan meal, and it's been peppered with cheese. And I'm faced with the dilemma of, do I say I can't eat this and it's wasted, or do I eat it? I've forced myself to eat it because I don't want it to be wasted, because there's billions of people starving. So I think it's about doing it in your own way. I think the debate that everyone seems to go around with veganism is, what about this, what about that, but don't you miss bacon sandwiches, but don't you want to do this and do that? It's just like, forget about that. Just understand it yourself. And if it's something that you believe in, and it's something that you can see growth and benefit from, then have a look and do your own research, and then start very slowly. Don't worry about, you've got a leather sofa at home. Don't worry about that. That's fine. But start slowly and then bring yourself into it. And you do find that when you start slowly, and the more you get into it, the more militant you get. And that's why you do come across quite a lot of militant vegans that are very going absolutely crazy around it.
Really?
But the majority of vegans are doing it for the love and compassion for animals and human beings.
And the main thing is food. You sit down to eat 3 times a day. You can even make a choice. You can eat healthy, nutritious food that no animal has had to die for, or you can eat food where an animal has had to die for it. I mean, that's a choice that people have every day. And it's an individual choice, right?
And let's say you had a friend who was vegan, and then they go back to their old ways. Is there ever any kind of like resentment, or what you're doing, or you're excommunicated now?
It's pretty rare for a vegan to go back, because it's kind of like people that aren't vegan sometimes live in kind of in ignorance, and they don't understand what is actually going on in these factory farms and what's actually happening. And then once their eyes are open to that, once you see, a lot of the videos that you can see of things that are commonplace in these industries, to be able to mass produce all this food for people to eat, once you know about that, people generally, can't justify ever eating meat again. So
once you've made that decision.
Yeah, it's kind of beforehand, it's kind of like ignorance is bliss kind of thing. You don't know about it, so, it's just a cultural kind of traditional kind of thing to eat meat. Mm-hmm. And then...
I think it also depends on your motivation for going vegan. Some people will go for obviously compassionate reasons, and another, like a big thing, and I guess in the media as well, that's kind of emphasised, is health. People will go for themselves, so going vegan, they won't necessarily see the slaughterhouse videos. They won't see what happens in order for them to get eggs or for them to get milk or cheese or whatever. They won't see that, and maybe out of ignorance, because they don't want to shock themselves, because they're not sure how much commitment they can give to this vegan lifestyle. Mm-hmm. That they end up, if they're doing it for health, they kind of find themselves a bit lost, and then, I guess, just fall off the wagon, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I guess you could say we are in that blissful stage or whatever. I am aware that the food industry, the dairy industry, I'm sure it is immoral. I've seen some videos, and you do think, if I watch any more of this, I won't drink milk or eat meat or whatever. But you think, how can we not? But anyway, let's have a call. If you'd like to put the headphones on, hopefully we'll go through to a caller. Hello, line 1. Who's there? Who's this? You're live on LMTU. Hello, caller. Barbara, I'm not getting anything.
I'm not either.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi. Hello.
Who's this?
Hi, this is Pino.
Pino, welcome.
Hi.
Brilliant.
Hello.
Pino, you're through to the Rise of the Vegans. There's Matt, Steve, Adam, Stephen, Richu is here. And you are a new vegan, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
How's it going?
Probably a couple of months now. It's kind of very interesting. It wasn't something I planned, and I was always a meat eater, and to be honest, I really enjoyed, eating meat, cheeses, and all sorts of things, and was a chef for 16 years and never had an issue with it. And I suppose, we've all heard about animals being treated cruelly, and, you sort of read a few bits here and see a few bits on TV. And a friend of mine, I think a couple of years ago, actually told me to watch his video on YouTube. And I never got around to watching it. And 2 months ago, I was waiting for someone in a cab, and I thought, I'm going to search for this video. And literally, there and then, the 50-minute clip on the internet, and right there and then I just decided I'm never going to eat meat again. And it was in pure protest to what I've seen. It showed a couple of 2 4-minute videos on how these animals are getting treated, and it was the most horrendous thing I've ever seen in my life. And it just really opened my eyes up to exactly what's going on. And it's just it was nothing I planned, and this has changed my life completely.
Excellent.
Wow.
But and it was a very difficult thing, to be honest. I mean, I didn't plan it, and just suddenly stopping eating meat there and then, I thought, Christ, how am I going to get through this? I've been eating meat all my life, and you walk around the supermarkets, and I think just about everything you touch on in the sort of fridge section, it's got something. It's got either dairy or it's got cheese, or and looking and asking, Christ, how am I going to eat? Mm-hmm. But in one other hand, it's actually it's opened up a new world to me, because what I've sort of noticed is not only am I in protest of eating this now, I just will not eat it purely because of what I've seen. It's got massive benefits, because now I'm sort of exploring with new foods, and I found that my eating patterns have completely changed, and I feel so much better now. I'm actually enjoying eating, whereas I think up until a couple of months ago I was more or less like a robot. I'd be going to the supermarket and picking up the same things all the time, and I'd actually come home and I didn't actually even enjoy what I was eating. It was like I was a slave to I don't know, the things that I enjoyed. Borderline sort of just being addicted to these same sort of processed foods and processed meats and things like that. So, yeah,
absolutely. There's just so many foods that people find that they can eat after they give up. They're only giving up meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. And people, kind of think, oh, what am I going to eat? There's 250,000 edible plants, for example. We don't go short.
Wow.
But Pino, has there been any drawbacks to your transition?
Not really, to be honest.
If you've just tuned in, we're talking about veganism.
That's really, really nice to hear, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just really, to be honest, I feel really good about it.
What about in the gym?
There are.
Are you getting your protein?
Now, this has been really hard because I train quite frequently, and that's part of my life, really. And what I noticed is that I started losing strength, and probably 10-15% of my sort of strength at the gym had disappeared, even my cardio. And I think that was down to the protein. And I don't think I was getting enough out of just eating beans. I did actually sort of go online and look to see if I could sort of get a diet together. But I have sort of kind of solved this. Are you there?
Yeah,
Yep.
Sorry, we're listening. I think we're having a bit of a studio technicality at the moment.
Oh.
Sorry.
So, Pino, go ahead, mate.
So, yeah, I mean, I went into one of the high street sort of health shops and spoke to them, and, yeah, they sort of came up with a good solution, and I've sort of bought some natural protein that comes from sort of peas and some from rice.
Those things are always really helpful in terms of topping up, and I think there's a big difference when you are just surviving and you're going, about your daily business. Just you're not really active. I don't think you really need to worry too much about protein intake. But I guess it depends what your goals are in the gym as to how much you require. And even if you're on a Omni diet, you're going to be consuming extra protein in drinks and that sort of thing anyway. So doing that as a vegan and having vegan protein, there's nothing wrong with that at all.
And I'll tell you another thing which was really, I mean, this is prior to becoming vegan. And like I said, I used to be a chef, and this was many years ago. Probably 10, 12 years. And I remember, cooking meats and fishes and, sort of coming in from the butchers and things.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember how meat used to taste. And I noticed over the years that meat, especially fishes, had lost their flavours. And
that happened to me when I was probably around 13 or 14 years old. That started to happen to me, that I noticed the taste change. And I think back then we didn't really have the internet in terms of educating us about animal cruelty, and you didn't really make the association that what you were eating, you just thought this is meat, it's not an animal, it's meat.
Yep.
And that's how we're kind of conditioned from young. It was only when I got older that the internet, you start to read things, you start to see things, and it opens your eyes, really.
I mean, one of my local supermarkets, this was about 6 months ago, I went in and it was in the fish section. And, again, like I said, it was in restaurants, and I remember salmon, it'd be quite a nice deep pink colour. And, there wouldn't be too many veins or anything in it. And I was drawn to it because I was looking at some salmon, and they had some wild Pacific stuff. And then I looked at some of the farm fish here, and, we started discussing it, and, how sort of GM sort of fish, how these fish have been modified and how they're feeding them and farming them. And he said, I've been doing this job for 35 years, and he said, what I'm seeing now is horrendous. And he opened up his salmon, and it was just horrendous what sort of came out. It was like a fluidy, white, kind of pinky kind of fluid. It was like, I'd never seen it. And he said, yeah, most of the fish is like this. He said, I don't know myself what they're doing and how they're feeding them and breeding them.
Well, we're having problems at the moment with overfishing anyway. So, farmed salmon is usually farmed now, isn't it?
Yeah, and the farmed salmon as well, it isn't actually pink in colour naturally because they don't have access to krill, so they're dyeing them pink.
Really?
Right.
Yeah, they're actually dyeing them pink
Wow.
with a dye that's not really very good for humans either.
No. And I did actually see a documentary. I wish I'd taken more notes on it, but it's been
Which
banned in
documentary
Europe.
was that?
I don't know. It was one I saw, and it was regarding what they do with all the waste from the fishes and how they process the meat. It was banned in Europe, and I saw it, outside Europe. And I didn't take too much notice of it. I was watching it, but didn't sort of make notes.
Wow.
And, this has been 10 years ago, and it's what they're doing with the waste of the fish.
Yeah.
They're sort of filleting them, and then they're taking the skins, the bones, and the heads and the tails, and then they're selling this on. This meat's getting processed, and then they're actually making it into pellets and feeding it back to the fish,
So sad.
which is horrendous. I mean, it's banned from Europe, and they're making animal food from this. And
Yeah, it's a good point actually as well. They are feeding. It's the same with chickens as well. So they're feeding them bits of dead chicken as well. From an Islamic point of view as well, that does make the animal, even if it's butchered in a halal manner, haram because it's not a herbivore anymore.
Yeah.
It's been forced
Yeah.
to eat meat.
And that's how we got BSE, wasn't it?
Exactly that. From
Cows
cows
eating
being fed
other-
bits of cows that weren't suitable for the food chain, like cow brains, and then BSE developed from that.
I think that's what you can take from all of this, mainly, is that you don't know what animals are being fed right now, and the animal agriculture industry is so large that it's very difficult to control. And in terms of, I'm losing my words now.
Yeah, I mean, what I find bad is something I can't get my head around. Is,
Yeah.
if I had a pet dog and I was treating it poorly, my neighbour could call the police and they could come down and arrest me for animal cruelty.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, on the other hand, on a mass scale...
Set their police dogs on you.
They're enslaving these cows and, all these other animals. Literally, they're slaves from birth.
Yeah.
And they
They
literally
are.
just...
They live and die for one purpose only.
If you was, I think every animal has feelings, and I think they understand that they're trapped. I think they really do understand it. They're not happy, and yet we can turn a blind eye to all this, and it's just I don't get my head around this. It's I can't get my head around that, and it's this is one of the main criteria. I think these animals can't speak for themselves. They're bred into slavery. They're locked away. They're just they're treated like slaves, and then it's just horrendous.
Absolutely.
It
Well said, Pino. Look, really appreciate you getting in touch on this, especially
Thank
as you're
you
someone
very
who just
much.
come
No problem.
to the
That's great.
conclusion, the
Okay.
vegan conclusion. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Pino,
thanks
we'll
for
hear
having
from
me.
you again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. That's
Bye-bye.
Pino there, a brand new vegan. A couple of texts. Samara, who obviously didn't catch the show at the beginning, says, "Who are these people?"
We are from Rise of the Vegan.
.com.
There you go. Work that out for yourself. And she mentions that the Hodge twins have become vegan. Is
They
it
have.
true?
They have. They've actually become what they term as 50%
50%,
vegetarian, 50% vegan. They've cut out all meat after seeing how the pigs were treated in a video and couldn't live with eating meat anymore. And so for anyone who doesn't know, the Hodge twins are YouTube celebrities.
Barbara knows when he watches it already. Yeah.
YouTube celebrities in inverted commas. They've got about 3.5 million subscribers. It's the most watched fitness channel on YouTube. So for them, they're
we've
kind
got-
of...
I mean, saying that as well, from a Muslim perspective, with all that's going on in the world, and you see it all the time, what's happening in slaughterhouses around the world. A lot of it's been hidden, but
Of course.
some footage just come out, and it's really horrific. And a lot of times we're not really sure, even with our meat, if it's halal or if it's 100%, slaughtered in a humane way. I don't know if you guys would ever consider any slaughter of any animal humane, but yeah. So I mean,
But some is worse than other. Or the
yeah, I mean barbaric. I mean torturing an animal before you slaughter it or something like that. You know what I mean? It's worth considering. Maybe it's good. For certain Muslims to actually consider going on a vegetarian diet or a vegan.
I think unless they can be
diet.
100% sure how that animal is lived, because for halal meat to be halal, it's not just the slaughter that takes place. It's from the day the animal's born. If it's lived a nice life outside of factory farms in fields, which doesn't happen anymore. It can't happen for the amount of people that are demanding meat. It has to be done in factory farms, and so currently what's happening in the halal meat industry is animals are kept alongside regular animals in the food chain, in the non-halal bit, and then they're only slaughtered in a halal manner. They're not actually.
Yeah. I mean, it has been questioned, and people are questioning it more and more. And recently, an organisation, HMRC, they've come out and they've basically saying that they go and they vet slaughterhouses to make sure what they're doing is proper, etc., etc. But Muslims have been in this country for, I don't know, since the 1950s, maybe, the majority of them. And HMRC wasn't around then, and they recently turned around not too long ago. So the criticism there is like, is this just another money-making scheme? You know what I mean? So a lot of Muslims are not really too much into that because they see, where were these guys before then? How come this turned out now? Or why do we need a certain certificate to say that, yes, we've been there and we've seen it? So what have we been eating all these years?
Exactly. In recent years, they've also found that blades are inscribed with the prayer instead of actually doing it the proper halal manner. They've also found that tape recorders were saying the prayer. Instead of, there's supposed to be... The person performing the slaughter is supposed to pray 5 times a day, right? And there's a whole lot of set of rules, and most of them are being flouted. So it's like all of that produce that's termed halal is not actually halal, and people just aren't aware of this. They're just ignorant to it.
I think a lot of Muslims confuse what is permissible with what is recommended. Just because something is allowed doesn't mean you have to do it or you should do it all the time. For example, there are, I think, scholars that say that even beef might be considered makruh. In other words, discouraged, rather than you can have it whenever you want. You should have it if there's nothing else, or don't have too much of it. There's probably differences of opinion on this. Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
It is certainly, if you factor in the environmental aspects of it, because of the amount of greenhouse gases that cows contribute to, which is much more than the cars and boats and everything like that. And one of the tenets of Islam is kind of to protect the planet as well. Do
you guys, I mean, you obviously sound very committed in what you do and your lifestyle. Do you guys, you probably get it a lot. It's too much. It's just way too much. And it's something, when you do something too much, you cannot sustain it for too long. Do you find a lot of your vegan buddies maybe falling off,
No, not at
the
all.
ladder?
Actually, at the moment, it's hence why we're termed Rise of the Vegans. More and more people are switching to vegan diets as they become more aware of the actual reality. And I think that to start with, it's just swapping out meat for non-meat stuff, so it kind of starts off pretty simply, and that's quite easy for anyone to do.
So okay, I mean, we've talked about the difference of opinions, religions, etc. Let's talk about the actual scientific health benefits.
Sure.
What can veganism bring? For example, someone who's been eating fried chicken or peri-peri chicken for so long, the bellies come on. Etc. What can veganism do for them? How can it change their life?
I think the first thing that you need to remember is that when it comes to omnivores, there's bad omnivores and there's good ones. So you do get the ones that try and eat more vegetables, etc. But at the same time, you can get vegans that are quite bad. Oreo cookies, vegan ice cream, chips, bread. They can go really junk food. So that's not really healthy. So the idea is to kind of include more, whole foods in your diet, really.
Yeah, you can be a healthy vegan or you can be an unhealthy vegan. But as far as the plant-based diet goes, all the major dietetic associations all agree that a plant-based diet is kind of nutritionally complete and is quite recommended for things like lowering cholesterol, for cutting your risk to heart disease and strokes, for cutting your risk to cancer, and also for cutting your risk to diabetes. And there's a lot of science that supports all these statements.
Does it make a person become a passive, like, wimpy,
No, don't be silly.
eating all that veg? What do
Well,
you think, Julian?
I'm far from being wimpy.
Steve is a powerlifter in the making.
Really? Okay. Yeah, that's another thing. Guys who are into like weightlifting, it's become a big fad lately. It's always been there, but I think recently because of social media, a lot of people are
Instagram.
building up their profiles, showing off their bodies, building up followings for whatever reason. Muscle tone, muscle mass, having all that vegetable stuff, can it really give you that big look? Can it really?
Yeah, absolutely. So the current Mr. Universe, actually previous Mr. Universe, last year's Mr. Universe was vegan. And Arnold Schwarzenegger just recently said a couple of weeks ago, luckily we know you can get your protein source in many different ways. You can get it through vegetables if you're a vegetarian. I've seen many weightlifters and bodybuilders that are vegetarian, and they look strong and healthy. Anyone can take steroids, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think the question here is not steroid use. The question here is food.
Yeah,
You know,
food, yeah.
different diets, really.
Yeah, and the question comes down to do vegetables and plant-based sources contain protein? And yeah, you get more than enough protein. The average vegan gets about 70% more protein than they actually need. So yeah, there's an abundance of protein. Everyone focuses on protein and is drinking whey protein shakes all the time and that kind of thing, but you get way more protein than you need, and that's actually contributing to higher incidence of a lot more growth in the body, like cancers and things like that, as well as muscle growth. So.
That's right. I mean, a few years back, we had a prominent trainer, Ruben Tabares, who's very big on organic food. I don't know if he was a vegetarian, but he's very big on superfoods and all that stuff. And he actually introduced us to certain foods like goji berries and spirulina and all that stuff. And he was the first person to actually I ever heard those foods from. I didn't even know what those things were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when he left, I was so inspired. I bought some items. I bought some spirulina, some goji berries. A few of us did actually on that show. We were so inspired, like, you know what I mean?
Is that the Australian guy?
No, he's not Australian. No, he actually was a personal trainer or fitness trainer to David Hay.
Yeah,
years back.
He's
David
actually
Hay, who's vegan now.
Oh, there you go then, yeah. So he came on and he really inspired quite a few of us. And then we tried it. And I tried the spirulina stuff. And I tell you, the energy I got from it was unbelievable. I mean, I couldn't maintain it, obviously, but the energy I got from it was amazing. And it does a lot for your insides, like cleaning up bacteria and things like that. And this is, it's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing. It's like a weed. It's like seaweed.
So algae, yeah.
It's algae,
Algae.
that's it, yeah. And apparently it's very potent in protein.
Yeah, it's the highest protein source, I think.
Yeah.
For weight, yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
But you got to have a whole load of it to actually do
Oh, yeah,
something.
yeah.
That's the thing. And
But
it really,
it's better for micronutrients, spirulina. Yeah.
yeah, it's excellent. It's excellent. Very good.
What about quinoa?
Quinoa.
Quinoa. Quinoa.
I can never say it.
Quinoa. Quinoa is actually it's full of complete amino acid profile.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense to you.
What else? What are some good?
So you've got hemp.
If you're starting out,
Hemp protein is good.
Cannabis.
Quinoa. Chia seeds. Tofu is a really good one. My favourite. Tempeh.
You can substitute in, if you're having, chicken tikka masala, instead of the chicken, you can just replace it with something called seitan, which is textured wheat protein, which has...
Satan.
Yeah.
Seitan, yeah.
Yeah,
S-E-I-T-A-N.
S-E-I-T-A-N. Not shaitan.
No. Okay. Similar.
Well, corn, were you just saying? Yeah, corn. Okay, so corn recently have brought out a vegan line.
Were
So
they
a
not
bit
vegan
prior to that, they were vegetarian. They used to use egg whites and things. So I think they've still got those going on. But because vegan is kind of growing in popularity, celebrities are endorsing the lifestyle, that sort of thing, especially the health benefits. A lot of these different companies are now thinking about this untapped market that they need to get into. So corn, yes, they've got a vegan line now.
They still try and make it look like a burger, don't they?
Well, I think the idea is that that's people. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I mean, a burger is just a shape. It's a shape that's convenient for eating. It didn't grow that way, right? So it's not like...
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it always seems to be that, in my mind, corn is kind of like, it looks and tastes just like a burger.
It's
as
for
if
people...
it's trying to imitate it
Well,
rather
I
than
think
be
it's quite
something
good
else.
for people
Yeah,
that maybe
transition.
they are transitioning and maybe they've just become vegan because their whole thing was, oh my god, I can't deal with the pain and the slaughter and the suffering. They've gone kind of animal motivated. So for them, they still miss eating meat.
Yeah.
There's still that whole texture and the shape and the whatever, the taste of it that they kind of miss.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. People do enjoy eating mince. They enjoy eating chicken and hamburgers and things like that. So if you can make a product that's exactly the same, but there's no animal that was involved and no animal suffering and things like that, and it's healthier for you because it doesn't have the cholesterol, the saturated fat, then it's kind of a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you have that instead of the animal?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can see that, for someone who's actually transitioning, I agree, definitely. I can see that. Someone who's probably going for a change, and, you don't want to change too rapidly, otherwise you just...
Yeah,
quit, isn't it?
At first you wouldn't know what to eat. It's kind of like, I've been eating this way all my life. Like, what do I eat that's different? So they don't actually know.
So is someone really wanting to someone who's really into lifting and really like to have the big look? How much vegetables do they really need to eat to maintain that? Because you got a whole load, right?
Well, I mean, for me personally, I'm a gym goer. I like to go to the gym, and when I come back from the gym, if I've got time to sit down and make a meal, I'll have rice, I'll have half a plate of kale, for example, and then I'll have a whole packet of tofu because I love tofu. And in that packet, you've got something like 40 grams of tofu. 40 grams of protein, which is really high. So I don't feel at any stage that I'm kind of deficient or I'm not going to get my gains from the workout.
But you have to compromise something. I think, you cannot have the same look as a meat eater.
Why?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
No,
I haven't seen it. No, you're not. No, I'm not saying him. But I'm saying you're not. But can you really have that same? Can you have the same look?
Absolutely. So what it comes down to is calories and protein. You can easily hit 4,000 calories on a vegan diet, which is the amount of calories I eat. You're not going to survive doing that just eating spinach leaves, for example. But there are calorie dense vegan foods that you can eat. The Germany's strongest man is vegan. He's a big guy, very big guy. He's got several world records as well, Patrick Bamumian. So yeah, it's perfectly possible to do.
Just think how strong he'd be if he wasn't vegan.
Oh gosh, here we go.
There you go.
Have you actually met him?
There's nothing actually magical about meat. It's simply a container of nutrients, right?
But this is the exactly. You get the right amount of protein. Doesn't matter where you get it from, I presume.
Does the meat protein or molecules go quicker into the muscles than vegetables do? That's the thing.
So protein.
You're getting scientific now.
All protein is, all protein is a collection of amino acids.
Okay.
And those amino acids exist in plant foods as well as in meat foods.
Is it expensive being a vegan?
No, not necessarily. I mean, meat is
I've
regarded
seen all the
as
good food now. Come on, you go to the supermarkets, right? All the rubbish food, cheap. You can pick it up. You get more for your money.
Well, it's more demand though. So
and you get a pack of nuts. It could be that little handful, and you're paying like £3 for it.
All right, we're going back to the phone lines. On line 3, someone is getting in touch. Hello, caller. Who's this? You're live on LMTU.
Hi there. My name's Jane, and I just wanted to talk to these guys
Jane.
about how I've been vegan for 2 years now. And I just wanted to share my experience this Ramadan when I was fasting as a vegan and the difference that it made to me. You guys talk about quite a lot of different topics.
Wow,
and actually, this year, my sister and my brother-in-law also stayed with us during Ramadan, and they eat meat a lot. And for all of us, this year, I noticed a really big difference in my level of concentration and how much normally you get the hunger pangs in the afternoon and you get really thirsty and things like that. This year I found it a lot easier, and I felt like I was a bit lighter, but I didn't really crave food as much. And it was although it was one of the longest, it was probably one of the easiest Ramzan for me. And my brother-in-law, who really loves meat, said the same thing because he was eating with us every day. And I felt like it was a really easy thing to digest and for my body to deal with in Ramzan. So I think you guys should try it.
Excellent. So what kind of foods did you eat?
Well, my mum's Pakistani, so I curry everything. So it's like curry and roti.
Barbara hasn't got the headphones, so he can't hear, but I'll just elaborate for him. We've got a Muslim sister who fasted Ramadan, and she's been vegan for 2 years and said it went really well. Maybe you should try it.
She needs to be out there. She needs to be promoting it.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So, what sort of food are we having in the morning, Jane, for suhoor to keep you going?
For suhoor, it's like I've always been the kind of person who normally tries to have leftovers, but this year, because it's only like 4 or 5 hours after you've just eaten, I would try and have like a milkshake or something like that, and like pack it with some fruits and maybe put a handful of spinach in it.
What kind of milkshake? I'm presuming there wasn't any milk in there.
I use almond milk.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. So almond milk, bananas, maybe a handful of spinach, some peanut butter for some calories, something like that, and then maybe a little bit of leftover food if I could manage it.
So this must be like slow release energy, I suppose.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of Muslims going vegan?
Actually, recently this year, two of my friends who are Muslim have gone vegetarian because, not necessarily because of me, but we often like to debate about, in general, about Islam and things like that. And earlier last year there was some news that came out about one of the halal slaughterhouses in Yorkshire and how they were treating the animals, and there was video footage of them like beating up lambs and sheep, and they were just having a laugh before slaughter, and it was really awful.
That's terrible.
And we were debating about that, and it really made them think. And one of them's pescatarian now, and the other one tries his best to be vegetarian, but occasionally when he goes home he eats meat. But I think it really has. If people really look at what halal means, I think they would, especially in this country, consider not eating meat.
Yeah, it's terrible for the animal. Also terrible for all the Muslims that are eating that meat, believing that the animal was treated in an halal manner, but they're actually eating haram meat.
Yeah, I guess it's like the same as people thinking they're eating a beef burger and actually they're having horse meat, because you don't actually know what's going into that, and the pain and the suffering that our Prophet wouldn't have wanted those animals to have, they're having.
Absolutely. I suppose if you do go vegan, you never have to consider whether it's halal or not, because it's going to be halal. Everything vegan is halal. Mm-hmm.
My nephew always says to me, because he knows I'm vegetarian, he always says to me, "Oh, is this halal?" And I'm like, "But everything I eat is halal."
Yeah, halal water.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jane, thank you very much for getting in touch. We hope we hear from you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. There you go, Baba, Muslim vegan. It's not haram to be vegan, although you mentioned earlier on some people think that it is.
Yeah, I just found this
What is that all about?
this page on Facebook. Be Muslim, be vegan, be proud. It's got about 5,000 people, 4,500 people. So it's I think it's increasing in not just
I mean,
in Islam, but like
I
across the board.
do feel that Muslims' attitudes to food is changing. Because there's so many illnesses out there. Especially in the Asian community. Usually when people hit their
such a big thing.
As soon as people hit their 50s, it all catches up. Diabetes comes quickly, and then before you know it, unfortunately, many have heart attacks, and it's all because of the diet. But the thing is, the Asian community, especially, have got this habit of bringing their dietary habits from Asia to the UK, and they still think that it's sustainable here. It's not, because the climates are different. The food burns differently. Down over there, you probably have somebody who eats like probably 10 rotis a day or something. You know what I mean? And he burns it off. But you come here, you can't do that here. And this is the thing. The habits. They die hard.
I feel like they probably adopted more of a Western diet, which has given them, which is making them get diabetes, cardiovascular disease younger, if you like, or more prominent. And I think it's because it's the change of diet. The Western diet is really bad.
But I also think it's the ingredients and the oil.
Yeah, of
and-
course.
and
Not-
it's loads of different factors
Yeah.
that that's used in the foods that they're cooking.
And it's also not knowing what your food actually is now.
I mean, they got some amazing dishes, no doubt. But
I'm talking beyond Asian cooking in terms of
Yeah.
in this country. I don't feel like they're eating that much Asian food. They're probably eating more Western food, junk food, that sort
no,
of
you'd be
thing.
surprised. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
There's many families out there. They every day they have to have that Asian dish. They have to have it. They can't.
But
go.
do you think also that people are eating more meat now than they would have done back home? Because
Yes.
back in Pakistan or India, it would have been very expensive to have an animal, to have meat. So it would be something that people would have maybe once a
I mean,
month.
generally, the Prophet peace be
Or
unto him,
every
he used
now
to
and
have meat. I think on Fridays or
and now
it's very
people
rare.
cannot, they can't, they feel like they can't survive without having meat in every single meal.
It's the thought of being full. Is eating to your
I
full.
think it's this whole protein debate.
No. If you look at the whole protein issue is
Yeah.
more for the younger generation or people
I
who are
feel
into
like
the gym.
older as well, though, to be honest, because they'll say,
I think
how do you get
elders
strong
are
and-
more into being full. They don't feel, they feel that they need to be full. Do you know what I mean? For them to have their full energy or stuff like that. But we know that, to have a meal, you don't need to feel full, but you actually are getting the right nutrients that you need. You know what I mean? But it's the habits that we have. We have to eat until we're full. And otherwise we won't leave the table. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Got an anonymous text here that says, "Do we get parasites from eating meat?" I think they mean
Parasites.
parasites. Yes.
Yeah, it's perfectly possible, yeah.
Is that a main reason to avoid meat, or is that just another one of those?
It's a good reason
myths?
to
I
avoid
think it's
meat.
definitely a good reason. Yeah, if you were if you were kind of looking at it from a health aspect, yeah, you wouldn't want to.
What about in your colon? There's like 10 kilos of meat just rotting
Putrefying,
away
yeah.
there. Is that true?
Well, the thing is,
It's slower digesting
Yeah.
as well. It stays in you for longer.
there's virtually no one in the Western world that's protein deficient, but there are many people that are fibre deficient. They're not getting enough fibre. Things aren't moving along fast enough in their digesting system. So if you eat meat, it's particularly bad because it's kind of putrefying inside your colon. It leads to colon cancer and things like that. So yeah, more fibres definitely. And fibres obviously it doesn't exist in meat or dairy. Fibre is only from vegetables and fruit.
Is there any specific breads that you guys eat, or is bread okay, or is it?
Bread's pretty much okay.
It depends on labelling
Wow.
again. So
Gluten-free.
no,
I knew this. I wanted to bring
nothing
this up.
to do with that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with eating wheat. I love gluten. Say it in, Steve was talking about earlier is actually made from wheat gluten. But
There
in
are
terms
people who
of-
argue against bread for other reasons.
Yeah,
Well, health reasons. Basically.
that's a topic for
Wow.
another day, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well,
veganism is more to do with an ethical standpoint rather than a
Health. Is,
yeah.
I mean, that can be someone else's. Their own benefit is for
So
their
the health
for
is
their
the
health.
is the bonus. but
It's
it's
for
the ethics.
themselves.
Yeah.
But in terms of for the planet, for the animals, and that's something that we probably haven't touched on, is climate change and the planet and that sort of thing that the animal agricultural industry is having such a large damaging effect on our environment in terms of the CO2 gas in the air, the nitric oxide, methane gas as well produced, and it's having a really damaging effect on the environment. And again, that will then lead to things like animal extinction as well. So it's kind of it's like a domino effect all the way around.
Yeah, have you guys
Which
watched
animals could go extinct if we can?
polar bears
Polar
Polar
bears.
bears. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've seen in the media recently about the
and fish as well?
polar bears not being able to fish or feed its baby cubs.
On the same topic, I've got another anonymous, or the previous
Yeah.
topic, another anonymous text. Do non-vegan people need to get their colon cleaned? That's from a concerned listener.
That's a personal preference if they wanted to do that.
Vegans generally don't. Let's put it that way.
Okay, we've been talking so much amongst ourselves, we haven't been giving out the numbers. So if you want to get involved in this conversation, One Room FM, let me tell you Sundays. I'll give you the text number if you're shy, 07909 567 527. I'll repeat that again, 07909 567 527, and that's for texting. And if you want to call in,
If you're confident, it's 01189 660 382, and we can ask anything to the rise of the vegans. So yeah, colon aside, polar bears are in danger from the climate change.
Yeah, have you guys watched Cowspiracy?
No.
It's available on Netflix.
Cowspiracy.
Cowspiracy.
Yeah, it's really good. It goes and tells you a lot about the environmental points of view.
So cows are actually worse than cars when it
Oh,
comes to...
of course they are. The animal agricultural, the the CO2 emissions, methane gas, they produce way more than the whole transportation industry put together. All cars, buses, planes,
including ships, which produce more than
yeah.
cars. So.
I don't know how. I mean, okay,
And
if we
yeah.
stop eating meat altogether, won't that affect like the circle of life in any way? I mean, are we going to have like cows roaming around the streets and stuff like that? And
well, I think you have to think realistically. I don't think people are going to suddenly stop
Gonna
tomorrow,
happen
but the
overnight.
demand
Take a week.
is going to they'll have to go like slowly. People will change, and people are changing already.
no, that's the question I'm posing. Like,
Yeah.
for example, let's say, ideally, you guys would want everyone to be vegan, right? Because you're so into that, and you feel that that's the right way to go, isn't it?
It'll be better for the
Yeah,
planet.
it'd be better
and
for the
humans
world or
and-
humanity. Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't you think that that's messing with the circle of life in some way? Like somewhere down the line, it could go wrong in some way.
No,
You know?
in terms of circle of life, I mean, we're not obligate carnivores. We don't need meat.
I think
So-
in terms of circle of life, we've probably done more damage than
Yeah, I
we
mean,
need to.
we're feeding cows and chickens and stuff, bits of other cows and chickens. We're messing with the circle of life.
It's also a man-made circle of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cows
Yeah.
haven't just popped up and gone, let's make loads of sense of that.
What you've got to remember is that these animals are bred. They're not just there out in the world just doing their thing. They are purposefully bred to live and die for human consumption.
If you had your way, they'd
Whether
never have been
it-
born. That's
Yeah,
the...
would be a lot
yeah.
better.
Exactly.
So
What
sad.
what is it? I think it's
It's bad
Yeah.
being born into those conditions. I mean, not ever being able to open your wings as a chicken, and just living the whole life in that kind of misery, up until the day they're killed.
I think one of the documentaries I definitely recommend you checking out is Earthlings.
Okay.
So if you Google Earthlings, you watch that. It
Yeah,
really
It's
it
available
sheds
free
a
on
lot.
YouTube, isn't
Yeah.
it?
We've got
at the moment.
Earthlings,
Cowspiracy,
Cowspiracy. What are the other...
Forks
must-watch?
Over Knives, which is the
Forks
health
Over
one.
Knives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cowspiracy is about the environment. Forks Over Knives is for health,
Easy to remember.
and
Yeah.
Earthlings is about compassion. And about the really finding out what's happening to these animals.
One called Unity as well.
At Unity, I haven't
Okay.
seen that one.
Pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. I mean, how much do you think the rise of the vegan has been due to internet and people being able to
Loads.
watch
I
these
mean, if
videos?
we
10
look
years
at-
ago, this wouldn't have been
Yeah.
happening.
But the thing is, that if I take my own self and my life, 10 years ago, had the internet have been around, had I have seen these things, I would have gone vegan then. And if we have a look, even in this last year, like social media, the hashtag vegan, for example, has been used over 20 million times. That's doubled from the year before. And in terms of animals killed, last year we had a 31% decrease in pork in comparison to 2007. Also, the milk market, there's now a 20% of that market is now non-dairy. So it's growing.
So almond, soya, rice milk, those kind of things.
Oat milk, hemp milk, you name it, sunflower,
I've heard
Big
soya's
milk.
not so good.
soya.
Best to avoid.
Soya.
Soya's actually fine. That's kind of a myth that's been propagated probably from the meat industry.
Propaganda.
And
You do a lot of that, don't you, Julian?
it's it's probably due to people thinking there's estrogen in soy, right? Actually, 80% of the
That's what I
estrogen.
was worried about.
Yeah,
Soy.
so there's not
Well,
actually.
growing man boobs,
Yeah, yeah.
you've got
Yeah,
more.
There's not actually any estrogen in soy. It's phytoestrogen, which is plant estrogen. It's much weaker than actual estrogen. 80% of estrogen that meat eaters consume is from milk, like
So-
cow milk. There is actual estrogen in cow milk.
Soya milk wouldn't increase your estrogen.
No.
Well, no, you're more likely to grow man boobs.
Must
from
be a different
eating meat.
reason then. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't work it out, Barbara.
Well, a lot of people mistake chest fat for boobs or moobs or whatever you want to
yeah.
call them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They do. They mix it up because you might have chest fat, but that doesn't mean you've got the other.
Interesting enough, if you have
Just do your push-ups. That's all you have to do. 500 a day.
interestingly enough, the more fat you have, the more estrogen you actually produce in your own body, and the less testosterone you produce.
Yes. Also, recently in the news, mainstream news, they're making a big hoo-ha now. First they're saying pork, eat a certain amount of pork, it's going to lead to cancer.
Well,
Pork, processed meats,
the
yeah.
World Health
Just
Organization
yesterday,
last
it's all
year,
over the news. If you drink, they're saying 1 pint of beer a day, it can lead to cancer. So where has all this come from all of a sudden?
I don't think it's all of a sudden. I think it's things that obviously scientific research has been done. They're finding that people are doing these studies and they're finding.
I think they always knew. They
Perhaps
always
they
knew.
did, and
But I think
it's almost
now
been like a media blackout, if you like.
I think they've always knew, but the problem is that they don't want the mess coming on their doorstep.
The internet has kind of...
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the
So
internet
it's
itself...
getting out of control now. Obesity, alcohol, illness
Well, I think
from alcohol.
also they're worried about their animal agricultural industries. That they want people to rely on these industries because they give them so much money. Like, if people are getting sick because of eating meat, then that's also supporting medical industry. So if everyone suddenly becomes really healthy and vegan and they're active and this and that, money's lost.
It's to do the internet as well. The internet's really democratized how we receive information, how we receive news. It can be a lot less biased. I mean, the animal agriculture, they do put a lot of pressure on the dietary guidelines that come out every 5 years in America to say, oh, don't say this, don't say that, about cholesterol and things like that. Cholesterol is only in meat and dairy. There's no cholesterol. Your body produces all the cholesterol it needs, for example. So you don't need any additional cholesterol from things like eggs or meat or milk.
Interesting.
Also, the super juice drinks that they're selling now in supermarkets, they're saying that what that actually does is it's not really good for you because your body naturally produces those chemicals to fight the bacteria inside your stomach or your intestines or wherever. And what happens when you drink these super juices?
What are those?
Which of the super...
It's like
Innocent smoothies or
the ones that
prepackaged. They're not very.
yeah, it's like they're supposed to be made out of like green grass and good stuff. You know what I mean?
You're talking about wheatgrass.
Vegan food.
No, it's not vegan. They call super juice. It's called like super juice. It's like you know what I mean.
Naked drink.
I know what he's talking about.
You know what I mean? Sorry,
There's a brand called Naked.
that's the one. One of those types. Let's not say that on air, but you know what I mean. Them sort of drinks. Basically, what they do is actually they spike
Sugar.
the bacteria-fighting enzymes in your
Yeah.
system,
Okay.
and you don't need it.
Yeah.
You don't need it because your body produces it itself.
Yeah.
I think with that's just marketing. The reason why they exist is for marketing. If you make those things at home, it's a completely different, absolutely completely different. It's just marketing. They're all concentrated, full of sugar. It's just like drinking Coke. It's just pure marketing. You have to remember that the majority of the Western world is run and controlled by corporations who are only interested in making more money, right? That's why dairy's so important for them. That's why meat's so important for them. The food industry in itself is worth billions and billions. Whereas people are seeing now veganism becoming quite a big thing. So corporations are going to jump into that. Ben & Jerry's releasing a vegan ice cream. Why are they doing that? Clearly because vegans getting big. But yeah, all the kind of like innocent smoothie and stuff like that. It's great. It's cool that they exist, but it's just like drinking concentrated orange juice. It's pointless. Make it at home, do it yourself, then it's worth it.
And don't throw away the fibre either. The fibre slows down. So if you're making a juice like an orange juice and you're just getting the sugar, you're not getting any of the fibre, which slows down the digestion of all that sugar. So your sugar levels just spike. It's not good.
So you actually need the bits of the orange.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
if you have the
Whole,
juice on its own,
Foods,
it's no
Whole
good.
Foods are much better. So if you're going to make something like that, make a smoothie.
skin?
Yeah, not the skin,
Okay.
but yeah, make a smoothie as opposed to a juice. So you're getting that fibre, slows down the digestion of the sugar and all that kind of
So you're
stuff.
not extracting the juice,
Yeah.
you're just smashing it all
So
together.
I had a friend who he was like bodybuilder, but he never really ate fruit, and he said it's okay. I drink orange juice. That's it
Oh.
from the bottle. You know,
Wow.
you need it's not the way to do it. Is
It's
it?
too much sugar.
Sugar. Goodness. I've got a text from Khulud in Palestine regarding chickens. We treat them good before eating them, and there's a picture of the chicken there being treated well. But I mean that's slightly better than battery hens, right? If someone has a free-range chicken and they live in a village and they eat their eggs and they
Well, how
kill a chicken now and
sustainable
then.
is that, really? If you think of, if people believe that that's better,
Mm-hmm.
and they believe that the chicken has a better life.
Yeah.
This is aside from my views and
Okay.
my feelings,
Yeah.
but if they feel that that's the way forward, how sustainable is that for the planet? How sustainable is it for everyone? If everyone decided to have free range, grass fed, organic cows out in the field having a party, and then you killed them and then you ate them and everyone lived happily ever after, apart from the cows,
Yeah.
how sustainable would that be? Because if we look at the facts, 80%, currently as it is, 80% of the Amazon rainforest has been cleared for animals to graze and for their crops to feed them.
Really.
So that
the
humans can
deforestation that we always hear about
Yeah.
is actually
then, is
because
actually
of
responsible.
cows
Because, yeah.
farming.
Again, watch Cowspiracy.
Cowspiracy. And another documentary that's really good, apparently, is Food Inc.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you to our
The
listener who
Food Inc.,
contributed
if
that.
I'm honest, was probably one of the first movies that I watched, and it really opened my eyes about food in general. So years before I was a vegan, I was really interested in learning about where my food came from, what it was made of, what it did to us. So that was a good eye opener, that film.
Barbara's got another text.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a text in. Text reads, my partner has just become vegan. Before cooking was easy, now my life has become difficult. What advice can you offer to help me maintain a medium balance?
Or what's the name? Are they Asian? or-
I think there's no name, I don't think, on this one.
Okay.
No name.
So I think it's easy to find meat substitutes, and then it's cooking like you would cook normally. You just swap it out. So if you're making, like I said, a chicken tikka masala, you can just use corn chicken pieces, which are vegan. So I mean, it's no more difficult.
But they're not the only brand out there. There are so many brands that do mock meats, if you like. So it is quite easy.
Here's another. I can never read the text off this phone, Barbara. You do it. I can't read
It is going back in time a bit. Okay, the next text. People are literally hooked on meat and sugar and cheese. There's a substance in these foods that is just like morphine. Mother Nature gives it to the mother for the child to guarantee the baby for coming back. This is because weaning is important. Everybody should read the China study. Protein deficiency.
Oh yeah, that's a
Protein
great film.
deficiency is a myth. It's just
China study.
Book.
Yeah.
It's just a marketing strategy for selling. The ultimate diet is sustenance fruitation. Our body works mainly on fructose. And that is from Sacha Calandrino.
Oh,
Nice text. Thanks for that.
thank you. Yeah, the Forks Over Knives movie is actually based on the back of the China study, the book. Do you know much about the China study?
Yeah.
So-
Do you know?
I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
I appreciate that text. It does make sense. But we're living in a very vain world. And people want to look
So
good.
your main thing is you want to know about the bodybuilders.
People want to. No,
the
I
fitness.
don't want to know.
not
I'm
for you,
talking
but
generally.
people in general.
That's
Okay.
right. I mean, I don't. As much as I appreciate the whole aspect of veganism,
We
and
can
being a
give you some
vegetarian,
names to Google.
Barbara wants the vegan makeup detail.
Okay.
I just think that, you know, for those individuals out there, you know, they got to compromise that, you know, and become
makeup or food or aesthetics. What we
they will give up their aesthetics. That's right.
Okay, cool. In terms of makeup, there are lots of companies now that are vegan. In this country, in 2014, I think it was October 2014, they banned the testing of animals, use of animals in testing for cosmetics. However, it is still done abroad. But in this country, the labelling has got better as well. So if you go to Superdrug, a lot of their own brand creams and cosmetics are labelled vegan, or they have a leaping bunny logo, which
That means
certifies
vegan, does it?
that it's cruelty-free.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so it's definitely possible.
Yeah. I think it seems like there's a broad spectrum here. Our texter from Palestine with the chickens having a relaxed life before they were killed. I do think that is more moral than the battery hen. And the next step is obviously vegetarian, and the next step is vegan, and there are even folk who are raw vegan.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to explain to me what that is? Is that better? Is that the ultimate goal, or is it just a different take on it?
Well, vegan is a matter of opinion, really, because that is just somebody's lifestyle choice for themselves. That's like a health. They think that that's going to be better for them. We'll get into whether it's how good or bad it is.
Someone who's a raw vegan, they just don't eat any cooked food, so they'd rather have...
Is that it? Simple as that?
Yeah.
So they'll eat vegetables, fruits, that sort of thing. They won't go home and make a nice, you know, curry or something.
Yeah.
They won't cook.
And this is mostly from a health point of view. They believe that, you know, cooking kills off some of the nutrients and that kind of thing, and which is, you know, you can do it, but there's not really ethics that come into it. It's
So
more
that's
of a
more
choice.
than moral.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that would be rather extreme to say no. I'm never going to cook something.
It's also highly questionable if it is actually healthier, because there are certain foods that, when cooked, they actually have a better nutrient profile than when they're eaten raw. Tomatoes, they have quite a different nutrient profile. You have a lot more nutrients in cooked tomatoes than raw tomatoes, for example. So, yeah, it's you know, a matter of personal choice and more a health thing than a ethical thing. So, yeah.
Do you think there is a danger of people wanting to go to an extreme with something? I mean, you guys have all clearly researched it. You've come to conclusions. You all look a picture of health. But some young people, when they discover a new fad, they will. And we know that anorexia is one problem that's prevalent when people try to control what they eat, and it might start out with calorie counting, and then it ends up as starvation.
I think right now, I think anyone that wants to go that way, and you know, whatever their motivation is for going vegan, I think they do need to go and do a little bit of research, take it upon themselves to treat their body kindly as well, and make sure that they are getting adequate calories and adequate nutrition.
Yeah, the difference is that anorexia is a mental illness, whereas veganism is obviously coming from an ethical standpoint. There is something called orthorexia as well, which is also a mental illness, which you kind of convince yourself that you can only eat foods that are healthy, and you get into you wouldn't eat anything that wasn't organic and that wasn't at the highest standards of organicness and things like that.
I don't want to conflate the two, because as you say, mental illness is one thing and your diet choice is another. But for someone of that mindset, or who's vulnerable to that problem, if they were to leap into veganism and then become raw vegan, and then, who knows, what was the other thing you said? The
orthorexia.
Yeah, orthorexia.
Orthorexia, yeah, just the belief that you can only eat healthier foods, and it would rule out eating a lot of things. You believe they're unclean, kind of thing. So yeah.
I think actually on that point, it's a very valid point. But I think once you get into veganism, it actually opens your mind up to a whole new world. So I actually have only been vegan for about 2 years. Beforehand, I used to be extremely unfit, didn't do any exercise, probably had Nando's at least 4 times a week, lived in McDonald's, did all of those kind of things. Couldn't even really run, couldn't
Good
do
old
any.
days.
Yeah, the good old days, right? And didn't do anything, didn't really understand any kind of other cultures, and was kind of like stuck in my own world. And then I realised that maybe I should change. So I started doing my research, started looking into it, and actually started doing yoga. So I started doing yoga and getting into yoga. And then from that, I found veganism. And then from that, I found meditation. And from that, I found new sources of compassion. So vegan, if you are that way inclined, it's probably better to go vegan. Really, because then it opens your mind up to a more compassionate lifestyle, and you can start getting into other things as well.
Another world. Yeah, I think people focus from the perspective of, oh, that doesn't let you do this. If I become Muslim, I won't eat bacon anymore. But you will be doing other things. You'll be discovering things that you've never thought of.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I think that it's all down to a journey, isn't it?
It is,
and you know, you're always fighting with yourself, your own demons. You know, to sort of stay away from what you know is bad for you, but it's a temptation of always wanting it, you know, and that's what life is, and that's what, you know, the test of life is. We also forgot about bigorexia. Let's not forget about that one.
yeah.
It's very important, that one.
Yeah.
Got another text?
True.
Right, the text name is, well, I don't know if I pronounced this right, Alfifi.
Okay.
Okay, also I have another question. Can one really get the same proteins and nutrients from plants like meat provides? We sort of touched on it before.
Yeah.
Similar sort of question again. So maybe you want to elaborate on that?
Absolutely. So meat is simply a container of nutrients. There's nothing magical about meat. It contains the essential amino acids. It also contains things like iron and that kind of thing. But yeah, plants certainly provide all the amino acids. If you take something like rice and lentils, for example, that's combining those two as a complete protein. It provides all of the essential amino acids you need.
And beans on toast.
Yeah, peanut butter and bread, for example, that's also a complete protein. It's not really that difficult. And you don't have to combine these foods at the same time. I mean, if you had rice earlier in the day and lentils later at night, yeah, you're still getting the all the required amino acids.
And peanut butter is okay, is it?
Peanut butter is literally just 100% peanuts.
Okay.
Sometimes they put oil in there as well, like palm oil and things, but it's still
palm oil. Now, is that moral? Yeah.
Palm oil is a debate. Technically, it is vegan. The issue that people have with palm oil, and it's not just vegans that have an issue with it, is that it's destroying loads of rainforests, which is it's losing the habitat for orangutans, and so
peanut butter borderline then?
Peanut butter is simply just peanuts. It's just 100% peanuts.
Buy actual peanut butter that's got nothing added to it. Just peanuts.
I know.
Yeah?
The orangutan is palm oil. So
what about like coconut oil and stuff like that?
Coconut oil is just 100% oil from coconuts, so that's fine as well.
But what is the orangutan issue? Sorry.
So it's to do with palm oil. So it's not just vegans that have this problem with palm oil. Palm oil is destroying, to produce palm oil, they're destroying a lot of habitats that orangutans are in. So orangutans.
Is that oil from the palm tree? Or
I'm guessing so.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm guessing so.
Okay. So where the orangutans live in Asia?
It's in Malaysia mostly.
Malaysia. Their habitat's being destroyed.
It's derived from the palm fruit, which is grown on the African oil palm tree.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Okay. Mm-hmm. There you go.
And you can get sustainably produced palm oil as well. So, yeah, opt for that.
Any more questions?
What about any more texts? Any more questions? What can I say? It's been an eye opener. I'm dreading watching these documentaries.
Do it.
But maybe
Go
I'll
on
just
Netflix
have to
and
go.
chill.
If it's good enough for your stomach, it's good enough for your eyes.
Julian's scared it might actually change him
Yeah.
into a leaf eater.
Yeah. Well, yeah, do watch these documentaries. It's good not to live in ignorance, right?
What sort of question? I've got this question actually in closing before we wrap up the show.
Thank you, Bob.
What advice would you give anyone out there, okay, you know, to slowly get into it if they are interested, say, wow, you know, I loved what I heard, you know, yeah, this could work for me, could actually change my life in some way. What sort of tips and advice would you give them? Because it's easy to get into something very quick and you can just fall off. You know, how would they go into it?
You can transition slowly, so you can replace, say, all your breakfasts with a plant-based breakfast instead. There's plenty of recipes online, plenty of guides. If you go to veganuary.com, they give a lot of help with transitioning, because there's a lot of people right now in January. It's been known as Veganuary because a lot of people go vegan as New Year's resolutions and things like that, and 51% of people that do it stick with it.
Apparently there's 50,000 sign-ups.
Yeah, 50,000 people have pledged to go vegan for January this year. So
Is that from the guilt? Is that more from guilt than
Perhaps
Than
from
what, over the Christmas
Yeah.
period?
Yeah.
Quite possibly.
We did.
yeah.
We did a show, didn't we, about New Year's resolutions, stuff like that, and we sort of came to a conclusion that you're just setting yourself up for a fail. You know, if you do stuff like that, you know, by June you'll be.
They
You know.
found
Well, I mean,
with-
there is support
Yeah.
for these things and
Yeah.
education to help people. I mean, if you go to like PETA's website, they'll give you information on how to go vegan. If you go to
So
What other
with
websites
Veganuary,
you got?
like, the majority of people that do take the pledge to go vegan actually do stick with it after January. So
51%, that's quite good.
We've got another caller, line 5.
Oh, okay.
Headphones on. Who is this?
Hello?
Hello. Caller, please turn your radio down, otherwise we'll hear it in the background. But a very
Yeah.
warm welcome to the show. You're through to the Rise of the Vegans.
Hello.
Thank you very much. So I just don't understand, you're talking about this veganism thing. It's not proper Islamic, is it?
It's not proper Islamic. What would be proper Islamic?
Well, to be an omnivore, basically, to eat meat and vegetables.
Okay, look, I'm not an Islamic expert. I'll pass you through to Barbara, who is at the moment. But I think the point is that everything that is vegan is halal.
Yeah, agreed.
Barbara, talk to the caller, the gentleman.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum salam. I was just a bit confused about what you're talking about on the radio show, and I wanted to talk to some of the people on there because I don't understand how being vegan is Islamic.
Well, these individuals basically are a group. They're called Rise of the Vegans. They basically promoting veganism, which is a form of vegetarianism.
Yeah, not veganism.
So, I mean, in terms of saying Islamic, you know, they're guests. They're not Muslim guests. You know, they're guests that are basically coming on and basically talking about their cause.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, they're not Muslims saying that all Muslims should stop eating meat. You know, they're non-Muslims.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so they're just talking about veganism and saying how it's a good thing and you should do it.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah, promoting good health more than anything.
Hello, okay, I understand.
So, I mean, could I just ask you something before you go?
Yeah, of course you can.
You know, how do you feel about, you know, us Muslims, you know, and our attitudes to eating meat? Do you think that we do it too much, and is it affecting our health?
Yes.
Is it something that we can sort of, you know, become more moderate at?
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. Any tips that you want to give?
interesting
Or
enough.
eating less meat,
Yeah,
less often. I don't know.
that's right.
Like literally, when you're thinking of what to eat, when you've got an option of like dal chawal or like rotis, pick dal chawal. I don't know, like what.
Rotis
like,
are also vegan. Can I just ask
Say
can I just ask the caller whether he thinks most of the meat produced in the UK is halal?
Do I think most of the meat produced in the UK? I don't.
You
I
don't.
doubt it. I'd say I don't know because I don't know. But I doubt it.
Yeah.
I doubt it is.
And why do you think that might be?
Well, because I thought that to be halal, I could be wrong here, but I thought to be halal, you have to like look after the animals' welfare and all that. And I know a little bit about it, and I know that mass production of animals and all the food stuff, I don't think they have proper ethical ways of maintaining the animals or keeping the animals prior to the killing them.
Even
It's not just about killing them, is it?
yeah, it's about the animal's whole life.
Do you
so
think-
the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said it's a great sin for man to imprison these animals which are in his power. And
Yeah.
factory farming, I mean, you've got animals that are caged.
True.
Do you think that we Muslims turn more of a blind eye to this subject, and we sort of like think, oh, it's food, you know, let's just eat it? Do you think that
To
we?
be fair, though, if you think about the world's ill, I don't know, like child hunger, I think turning a blind eye to that is a bit of a bigger deal than turning a blind eye to a
Well-
chicken KFC
well,
burger.
it's-
But that's just what I think. I mean,
it's
people
interesting
think KFC
because-
burgers are more important.
Hold on.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's interesting because the animal agricultural industry, in order to feed animals, you have to use a certain amount of grain or crops to feed that animal. For every one person that you feed animal, you can feed 16 people a plant-based meal. So
And we've got billions of people in the world starving. So.
And also even thirst as well, water and clean water. Something like for a piece of steak, something like 2,400 gallons of water is wasted in order.
And 82% of starving children actually live in countries where food is fed to animals, and the animals are eaten by Western countries.
Wow. So I've got the solution. Well, it's like Anonymous should get together with MuslimAid.com and take a load of chickens in one of these factories and drop them in Syria. Win-win solution.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely.
You could do
You could do. It does a good suggestion. It's good.
It probably wouldn't be halal though to drop chickens, would it? Really?
Oh yeah. So anyway, it's been good chatting. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your call.
I find that really interesting.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that was an interesting one. The caller was just a bit confused. He thought that it was a Muslim vegan group coming on and encouraging Muslims to stop eating meat, basically.
That's right, Bob. I was just listening to it in the other room.
Oh, okay.
Great show, by the way. We're having to share the headphones. Yeah, that's good. I think you cleared it up pretty well. Yeah, good job, Barbara. Thought it was our first complaint. Hello, Ofcom, if you're listening. Yasser's going to email you soon. Barbara.
Yeah, so I mean, is there anything else that you guys want to touch on? What about famous celebrities?
Yeah, that would
Who's
be
the most famous?
Wow.
That would be an excellent one. So if you go back in time, you've got people like the Dalai Lama, vegan.
But he's Hindu, right? I mean, no, sorry, he's not Hindu. He's Buddhist. They don't eat meat anyway, do they?
Albert Einstein as well.
Okay, yeah.
I think you've got celebrities like Brad Pitt.
Was Albert Einstein really vegan?
Yes.
Vegetarian.
Vegetarian.
There wasn't the term vegan wasn't around when you were
Who was the first vegan?
It was in the 1940s by I can't remember the name of the dude.
Adolf
vegetarian.
something. No, it wasn't Hitler. People do say he was
He wasn't actually a vegetarian.
He wasn't vegetarian.
No,
wasn't
it's
even
a
vegetarian.
myth.
No,
Oh, well.
that was just his propaganda expert trying to make him like Gandhi.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he was really popular at the time, so he thought, let's be more like Gandhi.
But celebrities now, for
Isaac
example,
Newton was vegetarian.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of the big academics from that kind of shaped our philosophies were mainly vegetarian.
Yeah.
Wow.
And famous people now, in terms of celebrities, you've got people like Miley Cyrus, Beyonce.
Really good role models out there.
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson, yeah. But I guess maybe not famous people, but you've got athletes, the people that are interested in athletics and things, or Jesse Jackson was a vegan.
Amir Khan, the Bollywood actor, is vegan.
And
Yeah,
boxer,
he is, yeah.
of course.
Yeah. I don't know if the boxer is, but
Steve-O from, I don't know if you remember
From
the
Jackass.
Jackass, the programme, Steve-O.
the late Steve Jobs.
Yeah, really. I think Carl Lewis was at least vegetarian.
He was vegetarian.
Yeah.
What, while he was an athlete?
Carl Lewis, yeah.
Long jump and 100-metre gold medalist. Yeah.
And I don't know, Kat Von D, so I guess she's like a style, makeup, tattoo icon.
And David Hay, we mentioned before.
David
is
Hay
vegan.
as well. So I guess, the list is kind of endless. Oh, Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah.
Really.
Steven Spielberg.
Vincent van Gogh.
Pamela Anderson.
Wow.
She's been a long time, I guess, veggie, but PETA campaigner as well against fur and that sort of thing.
course.
She did a lot for that.
Yeah.
I can sum up what's required Islamically for the last caller, if you want.
Let's hear some information.
Yeah. Do you really want to get into that, though? That's the thing. Go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the source of this information?
The source of the information is just various sources, actually.
Go for it.
Let me know if you disagree with any of it, though. I don't think you will.
Sure. Share away.
So when you recite the Gulme, you must complete the severing in 3 strokes of the knife, 1 for each recitation. The knife has to be swept around 3 times. It must not touch the bone. It must be extremely sharp. The length is prescribed according to each animal. So much for a fowl, so much for a goat, so much for a cow. Also, the animal must not regurgitate any food during slaughter. It must not make any noise. Otherwise, it becomes haram. In fact, if the animal struggles at all, it has to be returned to the flock. It was actually part of the early Islamic teachings that are clearly not followed anymore by
So,
many.
so basically, the animal needs to submit willingly, in a way.
It must not know it's
Because
about
I've seen
to die.
videos where people are reciting and the animal are actually literally submitting. I don't know if you've seen these videos where
Yeah.
the animal is actually submitting and
It must not know it's about to die,
Yes.
and it can't see any of its comrades dying either. There's a hadith that says there's a man about to slaughter a goat, and the goat had seen its friend just get slaughtered, and Muhammad said, "Do you want to kill that goat twice? Why are you making it watch his friend get killed?" So animals are not allowed to experience any cruelty whatsoever. They must be given a last drink of water. They must not witness the slaughter of any other animals. They may not see the knife prior to slaughter. The actual stroke of the knife must be precise and performed with a very sharp stroke to minimize the number of strokes necessary to complete the slaughter. All efforts must be made to give the animal a humane and cruelty-free slaughter. If the animal panics, it should not be slaughtered on that occasion. It should be returned to the flock or herd.
It's simpler just to be vegan, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, there's so many rules around this. So many rules.
it's a
and
very deep subject. It's a
It's-
very deep subject, and we don't want to
it's-
come across as, you know, experts and stuff like that, because, you know, you're going to get individuals like our caller, you know, probably ring up. You know, a lot of people do get offended with these sort of things as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's very sensitive.
But it's something that people should know about because
I
they're
think-
sitting down to eat three
Rather than
times a
I
day.
think, yeah, I
be
mean,
ignorant
from a-
towards the
yeah,
industries.
Yeah, I mean, from a Muslim perspective, I think looking at the positives of trying out a vegetarian or vegan
Yeah.
diet, you know, is much more easier to probably translate than saying, right, you got to cut the meat totally. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a very
transition
sensitive
into it by all means. Just the last point to summarise on that was once Allah told the Holy Prophet Muhammad, with this Qurbani, with this method, the killing will be greatly reduced. For where they used to kill 1,000 or 2,000 in one day, now they'll only be able to slaughter only 10 or 15 animals. If they started after morning prayers, it would be 10 o'clock by the time they're ready to begin, and they could only slaughter about until 11 o'clock, where they must prepare for the next prayer. In addition, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes for each animal because he has to wait until the soul has departed. And that is not how it's done in
It's
the UK
not,
anymore.
because if we have a
it's
look
just
at...
not sustainable.
No, it's not. Something like 6 million animals all over the world are killed per hour for food. So imagine trying to kill 6 million animals for people to eat, and you've got to do 20 minutes, you know, per animal.
And one who takes pity on cutting the head of even a sparrow and feels compassion towards the sparrow, Allah will similarly show mercy towards him on the Day of Judgment. So it's just quite a serious topic that I think people are not that knowledgeable about, and where it's affecting the lives of us sentient beings. I think it's our duty.
It's a lot of relaxed attitudes towards it, you know.
It's because it's just culturally, it's just tradition, it's just what you brought up doing. So it's like people don't question it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure, you know, many will agree with you out there. Got another text in. Al-Fifi again. I wonder who this Al-Fifi is. So, okay, this one says, if I raised my own animals and gave them a good life, what would be wrong with having a cow and sometimes taking milk from it? What would be wrong with that? What would be wrong with that? Hold on, you haven't finished yet. What would be wrong with that? Having a cow and sometimes drinking from it. What would be wrong with that? We're doing it for thousands. Okay, so basically, what would be wrong with having your own cows, taking milk from it? It's been happening for thousands of years.
If he wants to do that, that's going to be 1,000 times better than what's currently happening,
Yeah.
where milk is being taken from appalling kind of conditions. So if he wants to do that, that's 1,000 times better than what's currently happening. The reality of the situation is he probably won't do that. It's probably he's going to continue getting it from these factory farms where the animals are abused. And there's also,
he's probably not going to be
And they are
a herder
kicked,
himself.
and they are, you know, these dairy cows, they are forcefully inseminated. They are made to produce milk. I think we were looking at how many gallons of milk they churn out per lifetime. 9,000 in comparison to...
That's doubled in the last 4 years.
Yeah, it's doubled the
There's just a huge amount of compassion towards animals in Islam. And even the Holy Prophet Muhammad forbade the beating and branding of animals. Once he saw a donkey branded on his face and said, "May Allah condemn the one who branded it." There's just so much in there that makes it such an important topic within Islam.
One more text, Bob?
Yes. This one seems to be a bit a lengthy one. Apologies to the listeners out there. We've got an ancient phone, and basically the way I read it out, just
It looks like a Nokia 3210.
it is an old one. Okay, right. Gorilla, chimpanzees, orange tango, and gibbons are 100% fruitation only.
Orangutans, I think that might be.
Orangutans.
Yeah.
Orangutan.
They eat fruit.
Oh, orangutans.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
sorry. I was like orange tango. That's what it says, orange tango.
Orange
It
tango.
does say
I
orange
think
tango.
that
Okay, let me say that again.
text.
Right. Gorilla, chimpanzees, orangutans, and gibbons.
That's a monkey, Bob.
Oh, is it? I never heard of that.
Okay, so-
Okay, 100% fruitation only. When there's no fruit available, they eat leaves, and today they also eat ants. This is because humans have taken over their reserves. Look at the muscles of the four named above. How do you explain that protein and muscles is a myth? We share more. Okay, where are we? We share more.
Similarities with a gorilla, maybe? That's what I said.
Yeah, we show more than 99% of our DNA. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so gorillas are completely plant-based, and they're not short of the muscle. I think it's the summary of that text.
I think they're just trying to say that if those primates can sustain
On a vegetarian diet, yeah.
on a plant-based diet, then surely us as humans can.
But ain't
Yeah,
some,
you know, if you've
ain't-
ever
hold
heard
on,
the
ain't some
term,
chimpanzees cannibals, no? They
Well-
eat
Chimpanzees
monkeys.
are gorillas, aren't they? Yeah.
but if you have a look at
Yeah, but they've got different gorillas. Come on, they've got totally different genetic makeup to man. I mean, a silverback gorilla would just rip your arm off with just one little
yeah, but what do they eat?
bananas.
Exactly.
But you know, strong as an ox. But what does the ox eat?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not 100% convinced, but I'll definitely keep looking into it.
But okay, perfect.
I mean, me personally, for my personal opinion, I think it's something that you can do for a period of time, but I think to sustain it for life, I think it's extremely difficult.
But what would make you think that you can't sustain it? Is that socially,
I don't know. I'm
or
not a
for
very
your
sociable
own
person.
personal preference?
Globally, we can't sustain what we're doing.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
can't.
That's
No,
the point,
yeah,
isn't it?
exactly.
And like you said about the cows destroying the environment more than cars. and
Cars,
whatnot.
transportation.
Yeah.
It's possible that the world will have to go
Well,
vegetarian.
the
one day
UN
to survive.
actually say
Yeah.
that in order for us to, just trying to look for this now.
Robert's favourite organisation.
The UN, yeah, they advocate a vegan diet.
Basically,
they
in
do.
order for us to get out of the mess that we're in.
Do they advocate that to third world countries?
Well, this brings us back to the whole thing of how much food is used to feed animals directly, whereas if you fed humans directly, you wouldn't have. You'd be able to feed more, so 16 times the amount than you would by feeding one person that stage.
Isn't that just another way of making the rich man richer? I mean, the rich man's going to be eating meat, right? And he's going to give the poor people salad.
If you're looking at the third world, a lot of them aren't eating meat to start with. They're just literally scraping by on hardly anything, you know. So
But does that come down to malnutrition, though?
Sorry?
Would you call that
The third
malnutrition?
world are malnutrition,
Yeah.
don't they? That's not a result of them not eating meat. It's a result of them hardly eating anything at all.
Yeah. Because
and-
the West are so greedy in what they are eating. And obviously, you know...
How...
Funny enough, though, in India, as poor as a country that is, people aren't starving because they have enough rice, from what I understand.
India's a very charitable country as well. They'll give to the poor quite a lot with food wise. I mean, Asians don't like to see anyone going hungry, right? The UN, what they actually say is a global shift towards a vegan diet is vital to save the world from hunger, fuel poverty, and the worst impacts of climate change. As the global population surges towards a predicted 9.1 billion people by 2050, Western tastes for diets rich in meat and dairy are unsustainable, says the report from the United Nations Environment Programme. I mean, they don't have any other agenda. They're not doing it for the animals or anything like that. It's just an environmental fact.
We do actually have an obligation to try and help the planet if we look at how much we've grown, in the 1800s beginning, we were something like 1 billion people. By 1900s, we were 1.5. And early this century, if you like, 2012, I think the number was 7 billion. And today it stands at 7.4 billion.
A lot of mouths to feed.
A lot.
Can't all
Yes.
eat beef.
No.
Barbara, I'm going to let you do your thing. But
Yeah, I
thank
think-
you, first of all, to Rise of the Vegans for coming in.
Thank
This
you.
has been
Thank you for
it's been
having
an
us.
eye-opener. Very well.
It's been a great show, very enlightening. Rise of the Vegans. We will look into it,
Of course.
and we will look into veganism as well.
Yeah,
See
if
the
anyone
benefits.
needs any help or they need to, they want some more information and they want to kind of contact us and follow on from what we've talked about today and maybe discuss in further detail on how we can save ourselves, the animals and the planet, please follow www.riseofthevegan.com.
No ass. And
Vegan,
also
yeah.
also on Instagram as vegan bodybuilding. So
Wow,
yeah, just the account name.
might
is
have
just
reactivate my account.
vegan bodybuilding. Yeah, loads of, and it's not just to do with bodybuilding. Loads of nutritional information shared on there and things like that.
Excellent.
And there is a big movement now that, everyone has always perceived and seen vegans to be these weak, scrawny people, but there are vegans out there really fighting against that poor stereotype, if you like. You know, they're winning competitions in bodybuilding, in powerlifting, in athletics as well. So it's just breaking those stereotypes and really showing
David Hayes got a big fight this weekend, so let's see how he gets on because he's recently become vegan. So, and he's fighting a guy who's actually a ex-powerlifter type guy. So let's see who eats meat. Yeah.
Well, that's all based on, their training in their personal genetics. But in terms of us showing that we're not scrawny individuals, there are people that are going and breaking those molds out there.
No, it's definitely
So
it's definitely from what I've heard today, it's very testing of one's character,
Yeah, of
and it
course.
can bring out the best in you. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Richie, Stephen,
It's a
Adam,
wrap.
thank you very much for coming down.
It's a vegan wrap.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
thanks to all the callers, all the people who text. Tune in again next week, One Ummah FM. Let me tell you, Sundays from 9 p.m. We'll have another show for you then. Okay, take care and have a lovely week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.